Crap. Hello?
For the man behind Creepy Outdoors, the forest isn't just a backdrop. It's a living, breathing adversary. His channel chronicles his descent into isolation, documenting nights spent alone in places few would dare to camp. What fascinates his audience most isn't the survival tactics or the gear, it's the way he stays calm when surrounded by endless dark. When the unknown watches and every noise feels intentional, his answer is always the same. You have to shut down your imagination. Panic, he says, is the wilderness's deadliest predator. The key is to stay grounded, to believe in the best possible explanation, even when every instinct screams otherwise.
Just gotta make a fire. I feel a lot better when I got a fire going. What the hell is that? This is a decent spot. I'm gonna go gather some wood. I'm gonna make a little fire, have a nice beer. I heard something cracking in the woods. Now, if you live in Canada, when you hear something cracking, a branch cracking, it doesn't usually mean a small animal. It's usually a deer, a bear, anything of that sort. So it should never be taken lightly when you hear a branch breaking. All right, I'm gonna gather some wood. I'll see you guys then.
On this trip, he ventured deep into the Canadian wilderness, territory so remote that a single snapped branch carries meaning. The air was heavy with the smell of wet earth and pine, and silence pressed in like a weight. After hours trudging through mud, he finally found a spot to camp, a small patch of dry, defensible ground near a narrow creek. As daylight bled away, he got to work gathering birch bark and kindling, his hands steady despite the unease that always comes before nightfall. Then came the first sound.
What? Hello? What the f is going on? Crap. Hello? I better get some more branches. I don't like what I'm hearing. The bigger my fire, if there's a deer or something or a bear around, the fire should scare it. If I keep hearing those noises, I don't know how long I'll stay. If you're not used to the force, like I said earlier in the video, when you hear a branch cracking in the woods, it means it's something heavy.
A sharp crack. He froze. In these woods, a branch doesn't break on its own. It's a signal of something heavy, something deliberate. A deer maybe, a bear, or worse, someone else. The forest seemed to listen with him. No wind, no rustle, just the echo of that single sound. He exhaled slowly, forcing his thoughts back into control. Stay rational, he muttered. Stay practical. He continued building the fire, coaxing the flame to life until it glowed like a fragile heartbeat in the dark. But the silence didn't stay still for long. Another crack, this one closer. Then the faint crunch of footsteps, or something moving through damp underbrush. He turned in a slow circle, flashlight trembling in his hand. Nothing but the flicker of shadows between the trees. The fire hissed as he fed it more wood, the sparks rising like insects. He told himself it was a curious animal, drawn by the scent of smoke. But deep down he felt it, the presence, a subtle awareness crawling beneath his skin, the sense that something out there knew exactly where he was. The noises grew louder, rhythmic, confident, not random. The wilderness felt different now, almost hostile.
You know, a lot of people ask me in the comments how can I manage to stay calm while you're out in the woods, and I spoke about it a bit without going too much in details, but it's really important to shut down the imagination. You have to focus on what's in front of you. You know, earlier we heard some branches cracking. You always got to think the best case scenario. Sure, worst case will make you prepare. But when you always think the worst case scenario, that's when you start freaking out. You start acting stupid. You're not yourself when you're scared and acting stupid. You're gonna have to get some more wood for that.
Every sound echoed like mockery, a reminder that he was the intruder here. His heart pounded, yet his expression stayed calm for the camera. "You can't give fear room to grow," he whispered. "The moment you do, you start making mistakes." Minutes passed like hours. The forest around him shifted between stillness and motion, as though holding its breath. Then, silence, sudden and absolute. Whatever had been moving stopped. The quiet felt unnatural, the kind that hums in your ears and fills your head with dread. He waited. 5 minutes, 10, maybe more, before realizing the sounds were gone. The fire burned steady again, the night reclaiming its indifferent calm. He exhaled, the tension finally bleeding from his shoulders. "You see," he said softly to the camera, "that's the test. The wilderness doesn't just challenge your body, it challenges your mind. Lose control of that, and you're done." That night, he'd faced no bear, no intruder, only the edge of his own sanity. But as he drifted into uneasy sleep, one thought lingered like smoke in the air. Sometimes, when the forest goes silent, it's not because you're alone.
I barely got everything in my bag because I didn't fold everything properly. I'm just trying to get out of here.
Jenna never went looking for the eerie, the haunted, or the terrifying. She didn't need that kind of chaos. No, for Jenna, the wilderness was a sanctuary. Quiet, still, a world where the wind whispered secrets and the trees swayed like old friends exchanging stories. Her channel, Serenity in the Wild, wasn't about dramatic scares or fake suspense. It was about finding peace in nature. The slow mornings by a calm river, the crackle of a fire at twilight, and the rhythm of the forest as it settled into the night. Nothing forced, nothing phony, just real wilderness.
I wasn't strong enough to throw the logs across the stream without them getting wet, and that's my firewood, so I had to carry them across. I did weigh the risk of me doing that. I know that the river, the stream is very shallow, and I have extra socks in case I was to fall in. We did get all the logs across. Now that I have my firewood, I'm finding some fat wood. I'm looking for fat wood because the sap and the resin inside the fat wood is very flammable, and that's going to help me start my fire. Okay, there's a great example right here. It's easy to find fat wood when you look for like broken little nubs of branches like this, because when the tree is broken or like injured, it'll send all the sap and resin into the broken spot to protect itself from like disease or parasites or whatever. That little chunk of wood is going to be super resinous, and the resin is very flammable, which is what we want. This smells really good. That smells so good. So you can even see the sap basically dripping down the front of this, and this really warm orange color tells me that it's pretty saturated, so that's good. A lot of you are probably familiar with what this is. This is a bear resistant bag. So basically you seal it up, you tie it to a tree, and I believe it's like Kevlar or something that bears can't get into. Keeps your food safe from bears and smaller mammals and rodents and things overnight or when you're away from camp. So I put off getting one of these for a number of years because when I'm at actual campsites, they usually have bear boxes, and when I'm not, I would just be like hanging my food in the trees. Hanging food though has proven to be a pain in my butt over the years because especially in the area that I live, we don't have the kind of trees that allow you to hang a bear bag properly. When you hang a bear bag, it's supposed to be 15 feet from the ground, 5 feet from the trunk of the tree. And as you can see, everything around me is lodgepole pines, which are straight, thin, have very short, tiny branches. I did finally invest in the Ursac. Obviously not sponsored because I paid for it, but I'm using it for the first time today.
So when she decided to take her next solo trip, Jenna chose a remote patch of crown land. A place she'd camped before, far from civilization, no one for miles. It was supposed to be simple, just her tarp, her gear, and the comforting solitude of the woods. She set the tone of the video light and carefree. She talked to her viewers, explaining what she'd packed: a sleeping kit, a cooking kit, and her trusty little companion, Herb. A calm, steady introduction, the kind of content her followers loved. Peaceful, inviting.
I feel like every time I come out and camp, I learn more things, or I hopefully at least get better at one thing. So here's my tarp. This is going to be my shelter for the night. I brought the tarp, I brought paracord, and I brought pegs, and that's it. So this is it from the back. The weather's supposed to be beautiful tonight. We don't have any wind or rain or anything on the forecast, so this should work just fine.
The first few hours unfolded exactly as she had planned. She chopped down small trees for shelter, dragged logs across the river, and set up her little campsite as the birds sang above, and the distant rush of water added a soundtrack to the scene. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It was just the forest, alive and calm. But as Jenna moved on to her next segment, sharing bushcraft tips for starting a fire, the quiet serenity began to slip. The sun began its descent, casting long streaks of amber light through the trees, and the forest, once warm and welcoming, began to change. It felt heavier now. The air was thick, oppressive, as if the very woods themselves were watching her. Something was shifting. Something wasn't quite right.
I'm not even taking the time to pack up nicely because I just want to get out of here. Okay, goodbye to the campsite that once almost was. I don't think I left anything. Barely got everything in my bag because I didn't like fold everything properly. I'm just trying to get out of here. I have half my stuff in my food bag. It's gonna be okay. He's not here right now. Like, this is where he pulled out to, and he literally took a look at me and turned around and pulled out. But I know it was the same car. It was like a white SUV with a bag over the back of his window, and he turned around and I saw that same bag. So yeah, I'm fucking out of here.
Earlier that day, while scouting for a nearby campsite, Jenna had noticed a lone man in an SUV. At first, he hadn't seemed too out of place. He had pulled up next to her, close enough that she could see his face, but he hadn't smiled or waved. He simply watched her. At first, she told herself it was nothing, just another camper, maybe someone who was lost. But as the hours passed and she worked on her shelter, she saw the same SUV again. He parked, watched her for a few moments, and then drove off. It was strange, but still she brushed it off. Then, it happened again. The same vehicle, the same silence. He parked, stared at her without saying a word, and then, without a word, drove off again. That's when the unease settled in her gut, the slow, creeping certainty that this wasn't some coincidence. He wasn't lost. He wasn't just passing through. He was watching her, and he wasn't even trying to hide it. She knew she had to speak to him, but when she did, his story didn't add up.
To explain what just happened there. This morning I got here pretty early and I pulled out to the spot that I thought was going to be my spot for the night, and I was getting my bag packed, getting ready to leave the car, when this white SUV pulled up and this guy walked out, and he walked up to my campsite, or where my car was parked, and he was like, "Hey, me and my girlfriend were here this morning and I left something, I'm just going to go look for it." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." But I wanted to wait inside the van until he got back out of the woods and left, so that I knew he wasn't like still out there and that he wouldn't know where I was going to hike to. So I was waiting in the car for like a while, and it started to get suspicious that he was like out in the woods for that long. And so I walked up to his car, first of all to get the license plate, but also to see if his girlfriend was actually in there. But the windows were like heavily tinted to the point that I couldn't even see in. But I walked like up and around the car, so I would assume if the girlfriend was in there, she would have like saw me and been like, "Hey, what's up?" You know what I mean? So I walked around the car, I couldn't see if there was someone inside. I got the license plate and I went back to my car, and I just got a bad feeling from that. So I drove my van up to another campsite. I don't like, even if that man meant no harm, like I don't like when somebody, especially a man, knows where I am when I'm in the woods alone, or knows that I'm in the woods alone in the first place. Obviously my boyfriend always knows where I am and where I'm going, but when I'm out here, I don't like bumping into people, especially if it's just a guy on his own, because then he knows that I'm alone and he knows where I am and he knows that I'm vulnerable in the woods. I don't like that. So I was already on edge all day debating if I even wanted to camp out, but I basically, like I said, I drove my van all the way to a new spot. I hid it in the trees and I hiked like away from my van, so I wasn't even on the same trail as I was like parked near. And then the rest of the day went fine. The sky was beautiful, the weather was great, I was having a great time out there, got a lot done. And then like 4 p.m. rolls around and I see that same car. I know it was the same car because when I looked at the license plate, I saw his back window was gone and he just had like a garbage bag over it. And I saw a white SUV pull up in the distance, and then I saw it like stop where I'm pretty sure he saw me, and then he turned around and left, and as he was leaving I saw that like garbage bag on the back.
He said he was camping nearby, that his girlfriend was waiting for him at his camp, and that he had forgotten something. That was his excuse. But Jenna's instincts told her it was a lie. His eyes, cold, calculating, spoke volumes. Something in the air felt wrong, thick with the silence of intent. She didn't argue. She didn't wait to see what would happen next. Trusting her gut, she packed up her things quickly and left. In the moment, it was easy for people online to speculate on what they would have done differently. But out there, deep in the wilderness, far from any help, instinct was all you had, and Jenna did what was right. Because in the wild, the most terrifying thing isn't the snap of a twig underfoot or the distant howl of a coyote. It's the realization that someone is out there, watching, quietly deciding what to do next. Later, after Jenna had posted her footage and shared her experience, one of her viewers left a comment that lingered with her long after she'd read it. "Thanks for still taking the time to edit and upload this, even though it wasn't the trip you wanted. I find it really helpful to see how other women deal with situations like this. It makes me feel more prepared when I'm out there and unsure what to do." That single comment hit her like a punch to the gut. Jenna realized then that by sharing her experience, she hadn't just protected herself. She'd helped others, especially women, understand the importance of listening to their instincts when everything feels off. Because maybe the man really was harmless. Maybe he wasn't. But one thing was certain. She was alone, deep in the woods, with no cell signal, no backup, and nowhere to run. If he had come back after dark, if he had found her camp, who knows what could have happened? The thought alone sent a chill crawling up her spine. So always trust your gut, even if someone seems friendly, even if it feels rude to leave, because the line between probably nothing and too late is thinner than you think.
Ja, stemmer. We kunnen beginnen met een heel vals lijst van bijvoorbeeld kamperen. Ja, hoe groter van.
The video appeared quietly on YouTube on February 25, 2023. It was uploaded to a small Belgian outdoor channel called Camp Like a Beyond. At first glance, it looked like any other camping vlog, one man, his gear, and the calm serenity of nature. But there was something different about Bayan. He didn't just camp, he hid. His niche was what's known as stealth camping, spending the night in places you're not supposed to, tucked away where no one can find you. It's supposed to be harmless fun, a test of nerves, a small rebellion against the ordinary. But the thrill of staying unseen can twist into something darker once you realize someone else might be watching.
I'm waiting for the people there to leave. Because that's a nice bird. What I was saying, I'm waiting for those people to leave, because in that forest behind them is where I'm going to set up camp. They're slowly leaving. They're taking pictures of the swans. Oh, nice. There is my spot. There, these bushes. The people are gone, so I can enter. And I'm out of breath, but let me take this off first. And I can show you why I picked this spot.
On this particular trip, Beyond decided to push things further than ever before. His goal? To spend a night stealth camping right in the middle of a popular tourist area. In broad daylight, it sounded like an innocent challenge. But before the video was over, two small mistakes would turn that quiet adventure into something far more unsettling. It all began at sunset. The last of the tourists were still wandering the area, their laughter echoing through the fading light. Beyond whispered between camera cuts, waiting for them to leave. You could hear it in his tone, a mix of humor and tension, the kind that only comes when you know you're breaking a rule. He joked about the swans drifting in the nearby lake, but behind him, his real target loomed, the forest.
Here's my camp. Behind it is the lake, the pond, and there are lots of geese, plenty of geese. So I told you, here in this bush where I am now, normally I guess there are wild hogs hiding here. Not at this moment. I think they're still asleep somewhere, but it's about time for them to wake up. I'm glad I didn't pick this spot to sleep. I picked this spot to sleep, and we will see what happens in the night. Let's go for a small walk. See if you can see my camp from the other side, the side of the lake. And maybe we'll see some wildlife. We'll see. Let's go. See here, right in front of my camp. I will show you. Here is camp. And right in front of camp, you see traces of wild pigs eating. So maybe I can catch some on camera.
As the final few visitors disappeared, he slipped into the woods. His backpack was tightly strapped, every zipper silenced with care. He moved quickly, ducking under branches, scanning for a spot out of sight. And then he found it, a small clearing surrounded by tangled bushes, barely visible from the main trail. Perfect, or so he thought. He set up his hammock with quiet efficiency, every movement practiced, deliberate. For a moment, it looked peaceful. The night felt calm. But that illusion didn't last long. The first mistake came quietly, barely noticeable at first. He started gathering wood, snapping twigs, and piling kindling. The soft sound of breaking branches echoed through the still air. Then came mistake number 2, the one that sealed his fate. He lit a small fire. A thin column of smoke twisted upward into the night sky, faint but visible. In stealth camping, that's as good as setting off a flare. For a few minutes, everything seemed fine. He cooked, ate, and spoke softly to the camera, completely unaware of what was coming. The forest fell silent, too silent. Then, in the distance, a light appeared. It wasn't the gentle flicker of another campfire. It was steady, controlled, moving. At first, Bayan thought it might be a passing car, far off on the road. But the light grew brighter, closer, cutting through the trees in long, deliberate sweeps. It wasn't random. It was searching.
So guys, I got busted. I'm packing up my gear. I'm out of here. I have to go to the office. These foresters, they have an own office here at the domain. And they took my passport, they took 2 cameras. And we will see if what will be the verdict, I don't know. But I don't have much time. I have to pack and I have to walk all the way to my car that I parked further away, and I have to drive to their office and all this stuff. So guys, I'm packing in the dark. What a boon adventure this is. Completely boring. Leave no trace except big tickets. We will see what the future will bring. Damn. That's my lemon. So guys, this is it. I'm off to the office. I hope I still have my Camp Like a Boon hat. I can't find it anywhere, so I hope I didn't lost it. But let's go to the forester's office, get back my ID and my cameras.
Moments later, the unmistakable glare of headlights pierced the darkness, blue and white. Police. They were looking for someone, and that someone was him. The footage cuts abruptly. The next few scenes are muffled, distorted, his voice altered, details blurred. But you can piece together what happened. The officers found his camp, questioned him, checked his identification, and escorted him back to the station. He was lucky. This time they let him go with only a warning. But the message was unmistakable. Stealth camping only works if you remain invisible. The second you make yourself known, with smoke, fire, or even a whisper too loud, you've lost. Bayan later reflected that the fine for legal camping might hurt your wallet, but it's nothing compared to the cold dread of seeing police headlights snake through the trees, knowing they're coming for you. Because sometimes the scariest sound in the forest isn't a snapping branch or a distant howl. It's the low hum of an engine rolling closer, the crunch of tires on gravel, and the suffocating realization that the night is no longer yours to hide in.
Up on that ridge, I had seen a black shape walk over to the edge.
He'd set out alone, hoping for nothing more than quiet and fresh air. The forest was calm, the light soft through the trees, until something massive moved in the distance. The camera shook as he zoomed in.
We were down beside that big boulder down by the lake. We were down there fishing and catching a bunch of catfish, channel cats. And I come up into the woods here a little bit. Actually, I had to go to the bathroom. And the camera was just going around shooting a little bit of stuff. And up on that ridge, I had seen a black shape walk over to the edge, and then it just vanished that quick. I'm gonna go up there and see what we might see today.
Between the trunks, a towering dark figure shifted, its outline too broad, too deliberate to be human. Then came the sound, a heavy knock echoing through the woods, deep and hollow. He kept filming, breath trembling, every instinct telling him to run. The grainy footage couldn't blur what he'd seen. Whatever was out there wasn't human, and it knew he was watching. Shaylee and her husband were camping deep in Mount Assiniboine Provincial Park when the stillness of the day broke. A massive shadow crept across their tent, its shape unmistakable.
No shoes. Climbed up here in socks, so that didn't feel great. I was in the tent getting ready to come out and go to the bathroom. I heard something that sounded very big outside, and so I just grabbed my bear spray and stayed silent. About 5 seconds later, I had a bear claw in my tent. Kind of peeked my head out of the tent flap, and he was about 1 foot from me, staring at me in the face. So deployed my bear spray. That backed him off enough for me to get out of the tent. And at that point, I could kind of tell that he was more interested in the tent.
A grizzly. The animal's heavy breathing vibrated through the thin fabric separating them. Shaylee gripped her bear spray, her hand trembling as she prepared for the worst. For 10 endless minutes, the creature lingered, its torn and distorted tent, before finally vanishing into the trees.
Bear spray holder. Sleeping bag. And this is what's left of our tent.
Josh's new sleeping pad is done for.
When she stepped outside, her campsite was shredded, gear scattered, supplies ruined. She survived untouched, but the message was clear. In the wild, you're never truly safe.